and that's the thing with all the Channel Awesome stuff. Like that, like I, there good things came out of that, but there was a lot of bad stuff, and yeah, so
Yeah, well, you left in 2018, if
yeah,
my research is correct. Now, I
that is correct. I
good.
probably should have left sooner. In all honesty, I
Well,
probably that is one of my regrets, actually.
Well, I ask this not really to pull any drama out of anywhere, because honestly,
Mm.
I don't know what happened. I actually stopped watching Channel Awesome like a year or two before all that stuff happened. So this is coming from someone who genuinely doesn't know anything about what happened. From your behind the scenes perspective, um, hashtag change the channel, the document. What are these things?
So change the channel, and the document that came out of that was basically a lot of creators that were on the websites that were the management had really not well, the website was not very well run, and there was a feeling after To Boldly Flee that many of the creators were just kind of left to their own devices, and the management was not really interested in them. They were interested in what was going on in Chicago with Doug and all that. And so it was just kind of felt like there wasn't very much kind of engagement with the other creators, and there would be things that would be promised that would never materialize. And so there would be a lot of that going on, and so that had been kind of under the surface for quite a few years, in all honesty. And then there was the fact that there would be times where they just treat creators terribly. There were creators that left because of the way that they were treated by the management. And so I think what happened was is that people started talking about that website where you had to book all your slots on videos, and how that was the same website that had existed for 8 years straight without almost any changes, and was buggy and glitchy and all sorts. And then that just kind of escalated into people just talking about how, how bad things were, in all honesty. Like, yes, from my own perspective, I had that kind of freedom and independence, but I also felt like I was neglected. It never felt like I was being promoted or pushed in any way. It never felt like there was anything happening from that. They felt like there was a stagnancy going on. So, but after that kind of Twitter discussion, many of the creators that were on the website, and former creators who were still friends with each other and still are to this day, they kind of started working on this document, talking hope. And the idea behind the document was really to try and change the management. Honestly, was to try and change the thinking, like hopefully maybe apologize for some of these things in the past, and maybe change the way that the site was run, and hopefully for the better. Because at the time of the document, it was a site that had 30 creators on it alongside Doug. It was a big hub. But it's they wrote the document, and the document has a lot of things in it, and there was stuff in the document that even I didn't know about. I didn't know about a lot of stuff because honestly I was just going around doing things on my own devices. And so there was things in the document that genuinely shocked me and upset me, honestly. And then there was that initial response where basically the company said, "We're sorry that you felt that way." And when they put out their response, I read that and I went, "Okay, well, I'm leaving." And I just sat in the bath, thought about what I was going to write, and I left. And that was basically it. And I really should have left sooner, honestly, because like a lot, they hurt. Like, I personally wasn't too affected by them, but I knew people that were. And though, and I feel like I let those friends down in some way because I was still on the website, honestly. But yeah, I should have left sooner than I did. I think the writing was on the wall with regards to that. That there was, people were shifting onto YouTube at that time. I should have really concerted more into my efforts in that direction rather than trying to maintain ties with the website, honestly. So I think, and I feel like it could, the website, you look at the website now in retrospect, and all the people that came off of that website and found even greater success on YouTube, you think, how many people are on that website, and what the ability and the talent of those people, and how much they didn't utilize that. And that is an absolute shame. That is a real shame. They could have done something really great, and I think for maybe a couple of years they had something great, and then they just kind of let it slip through their fingers through bad management and bad decisions, and just really, really poor choices. It really hurt a lot of people. It genuinely did. Like, to this day, there are still people that are affected by things that happened on there, and I know there are people that like to gawk and laugh, like, oh, it used to be on Channel Awesome, huh? Well, it was at least a good exposure at the time. And that's the conflicting thing, is that I wouldn't be here now if I wasn't on the website. But at the same time, there is the fact that is a really kind of toxic environment. That was a toxic environment. That it is what it was. And so it was good that I think that I managed to find an audience through them, but me being on that website doesn't define me. And I feel like my since I left, I have really kind of, I guess, refound my voice again in certain respects, and I've found a different audience that doesn't know me from that. So I feel like the whole fallout from the document, it was a good thing, because I think that many creators felt like they were empowered by it. And it's a shame that the website, that things ended up the way they did. But yeah, I think we're all better off not being there.
What I picked up on in my limited knowledge on this is that after To Boldly Flee, when Doug decided to not be the nostalgia critic, apparently he didn't tell anyone that he was doing that. Is that right? Right.
That is absolutely right.
Initially, I was thinking to myself, well, he's his own person doing his own show. He doesn't need to tell anybody things. But then I thought to myself, well, a lot of people are going to Channel Awesome to see the nostalgia critic, and then that audience bleeds off into other people. So because he left without telling anybody, all these other people were just left, abandoned. They yes. couldn't get their things in order to get their audience and move somewhere else. And yeah, you said yes. So apparently that's all true.
That is absolutely the case. We did not know about that until we got a copy of the script, which was maybe a fortnight before. I seem to recall it was like the working draft was something like Space Hole: The Search for Plot or something like that. And the first immediate impression I got was, this is 240 pages. You want us to film 240 pages in 10 days? They'd expanded the shooting schedule on To Boldly Flee because obviously they knew it would be longer. But even so, 10 days is ridiculous for what is basically over 3 hours. And so it was a really kind of hellish shooting schedule for a lot of people. I think the filming of To Boldly Flee broke a lot of people, honestly, because it was really hard work. I remember one day in particular was a super long day because they'd scheduled about half the scenes in the movie that was set in Doug's house on one day, and like it was almost impossible to get through all that in one day. So basically, you're doing this kind of really super long day into almost the wee hours of the morning trying to bash out these scenes. And I remember that there's a scene where I have to come in and console someone, and I wasn't meant to be in that scene. That was because they'd accidentally sent someone home that was meant to be in that scene. So basically I had to learn all the lines on the spot. I remember because of the sheer size of the script, I actually gave up reading it. I didn't read it from start to finish. I basically went, sort of find film brain in the script and just went and found my parts in the script so that I basically focused on my material. I think we all knew at the time that it was going to be this kind of over expanded disaster, at least. And I think that's, but at least from my experience, again, I just knuckled down. I just basically went, okay, I'm focusing on my stuff. I will try and do the best job that I can with my material, and that's basically what I attempted to do. And I remember being slightly involved in the ever so slightly involved in the process. In that, so I remember Doug, while he was writing the script, he sent me a message saying, "Did you want to have a more dramatic role this time out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. That sounds interesting." And I think that is one of the things that at least I can take away from To Boldly Flee, is that there was a little joke among the other contributors like, "You're the only one aside from Doug in these movies that kind of gets an arc," because I kind of go from this big over exaggerated kid to kind of having this kind of hero moment, and kind of having this kind of growing maturity through, by To Boldly Flee. I thought that was at least interesting, and I tried to, take that responsibility as much as I could. Like, maybe I can save my scenes at the very least.
Because in Suburban Nights, you were the sycophant character, right?
Yes. Well, it was like that in Kick-Ass here, and that was kind of the way that spawned was. I know that a lot of people kind of go, "Oh, well, they did treat Film Brain dirty," and I don't think I felt that at the time. Maybe there are days occasionally where I sometimes feel like that. There are people that kind of seem to think that those anniversary movies were a documentary, like those were actually our personalities or something like that. Like, no, I hardly spoke to Doug between movies, in all honesty, but I am the way that came about is that I was basically the youngest person on the site at that time. So they basically wrote me as the kid. And I fully embraced that, because I kind of came from, I used to take drama for school. So for drama, we used to do a play called Blue Remembered Hills. And if you're not familiar with Blue Remembered Hills, that's basically adult performers acting as children. It's a kind of a dark play, obviously. So I kind of created like this childlike persona for that, and then I kind of adapted that for the kind of comedy playing of it, like basically kind of really sort of exaggerating, like I would raise my voice a little bit higher than what I would normally speak at, kind of to seem like a little bit more hyperactive and childlike, just sort of really like raise it up, and and then. Obviously, that's not my speaking voice, as you can tell, but that was the performance. So that was basically the mindset behind that. And yeah, there are people that kind of go on about those movies, still to this day. But I tried my best with what I was given.
I'd say Suburban Nights. That was your movie. You were so funny in the movie. Actually, literally every
me and Kinley, we had so much fun working on that movie, just kind of bouncing off of each other, doing the Harry Potter thing. It was a lot of fun, and honestly, it's kind of funny actually, because I've not watched any Harry Potter or anything, but it was kind of fun. But I wasn't playing Harry Potter. I was playing me pretending to be dressed up as Harry Potter and doing all these kind of silly things. And the thing I liked about doing the acting in the anniversary movies is that it was very different from what I was doing on my show, because it provided an outlet. It provided me the kind of, I guess, a chance to expand my range a little bit, in that I grew up kind of watching Jim Carrey and things like that. And so that was me kind of be doing my little channeling of Jim Carrey there, sort of. And I think sometimes I ad-libbed on those movies and it would find their way into the edit. I would really kind of just kind of run with whatever I was thinking at that particular moment. I believe in Circassia there was a moment that absolutely killed everyone because the way that I delivered it, where Santa Christ is on the floor and I have to run in and I turn over and halfway through my line I just go, Santa Christ, no! And I think because of the way that I delivered that, no one expected me to deliver it that way with that kind of intensity. So it was, hey, I heard a Santa Christ, no! See, that's a little funny moment, but yeah, it was basically just trying to keep my head above water, essentially.
You in Suburban Nights, you saying the other one had sandcastles. That line is burnt into my brain. Every like 3 months, I just say it out loud for fun. For fun. The other one had sandcastles.
See, that's the thing. That was a scripted line, but it's just all in the delivery.